Thank you very much. All right, good afternoon, everyone. So today, as you can see on the screen, I'm giving a talk primarily focused on communication skills. So I've done this talk for a variety of audiences. I've done, is this the, okay. All right, so just slightly briefly about myself. So I have worked in the games industry primarily on two roles. I was in project management. I've done art outsourcing as well as game dev, project management, timeline, scheduling, resources, and whatnot. Oh, sorry. And I've also done marketing and social media, which is my current job. And then prior to game development, other stuff that I've done is I was in business development for esports. I was out there asking Rexona to promote their deodorant for our esports gamers because they don't shower. And then I was also part of a communications training agency, so I taught kids as young as 10 years old how to do public speaking, all the way to corporate people how to make sure they don't offend their colleagues. I hope you guys know that without having to be taught, but some people have to be taught, especially those above the age of 40. And I also do speech writing. I've been a retainer speechwriter for several agencies and ministries as well. My previous, most latest gig was I was a retainer speechwriter for the Ministry of Education. So some of the speeches given by the deputy and also the Minister of Education in the past administration was done by me. And my favorite job back then was being a furniture salesman. That's how I started my career in general. I sold furniture at IKEA. It was the most enjoyable job I had. The pay was shit though, but I really enjoyed the work. And a lot of what I'm going to share today was honed and smithed while I was in retail. That was where you get to try out a lot of the things I'm about to talk about. So if you have the chance to work retail, don't, unless you really have to. It's like a desperation kind of thing. All right, so now I'm working together with my friend Han. We're in Kotakoren Games, so independent studio, and working on our first project, Descent. So we have our combat prototype available at the game demo section. So please, if you have time, do give it a try if you haven't. Thank you very much. All right, so before we go into the usual tips and tricks, so if I'm a bit fast, I'm sorry, it's because I've taken a 30-minute slot because I don't think my session should, take a lot of oxygen. I think a lot of the game dev stuff, like what was shared by Weird Alerts, is much more valuable for you guys. But I'm going to try to be brief, and we're still going to have time for Q&A, hopefully. But as always, whenever I try to do anything about communications, I have to set some ground rules because people think, okay, Burhan's going to give me 3 tips and tricks. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to woo everyone on the floor. Everyone's going to follow me on Twitter. I'm going to be so popular. It's like, all right, let me tone things down a bit. So ground rules when it comes to learning communication skills. Rule number 1, it's normal to make mistakes. All right? Fumbling is normal. And one thing, we are Malaysians. English is not our first language. All right, so it's normal if you're not fluent in English or whatever language where you're going, events or whatever, it's normal to make mistakes. You have to have that in your head because when you try to do what I'm going to tell you to do, there will be times where it doesn't come out right, or when you say the right things at the wrong time. It happens, okay? That doesn't mean you stop. It means that you learn from the mistakes you made, try again, which is why rule number 2, sorry. I forgot to brief the fact that what I'm talking about is primarily aimed for game developers, but it is applicable to any event where you want to go and, you want to sell yourself out there. Whether you're an artist, programmer, whatever, you want to get jobs, you want to make connections, this is what the talk is about, all right? And then rule number 2, like I said before, practice, apply, practice again. So when you try, you will fumble, you will make mistakes, but that's all right. It's all part of getting there. So you apply whatever you learn here, and then learn from your mistakes, try again. As you do that, you get better at it. Rule number 3, last rule, I just only have 3, play the imitation game. So what I mean here is that a lot of you guys, if you are about to start your journey in becoming a better communicator, a more fluent speaker, you need to have a North Star. You need to have a guiding light. So for me, when I started trying to learn public speaking, trying to learn how to effectively communicate, one of my examples was Barack Obama. Now, of course, I wasn't trying to drone children in the Middle East. I was trying to just communicate myself clearly. That was the point, all right? Because Barack Obama was very good at emphasis and pausing. He would be, and then we would like to get it done. And then everyone would just give a round of applause. Like, get what done? But everyone was like, yeah, he's gonna get it done. So it was very important. Like, so find someone, even if you can like spend time watching GDC talks, if you find a certain communicator or a game developer that's really good at relaying their ideas, that's really good at entertaining the crowd, follow them. Try to imitate their style. Because a lot of people often say, Burhan, if I try to imitate someone, I'm going to become like them. I always tell you the story of people who go to the gym and think, Burhan, what if I start looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger? So that's not going to happen, my friend. You could be working 10 years and you might not look like that man. Do not be worried about being someone else. You will have flavors of yourself in there eventually. Because when you try to imitate someone, you'll find, oh, this thing doesn't work for me. This works. I'm going to throw away what doesn't work, and then I'm going to replicate the things that work. That's eventually where you'll fall into your own personality and style. All right, those are the rules. So, number one, first tip, craft openers. So, regardless if you're a game developer, you're a modeler, you're an artist, you're a programmer, whenever you go to any events, you go to anywhere, you always have an introduction. You always have a way to get into the crowd, to start, to set the tone, and you don't have to workshop these on the ground. You don't have to come to Indie Jam 2024 and think, okay, what am I going to say today? You do not have to do that. Prepare your openers. If you're here to promote your game, you surely should have 1 or 2 lines that you can use every single time. Okay, good openers are short. Try to keep things where you don't run out of breath. You know, you say your opener, and then it gives people space to reply. It's like, oh, hi, my name is Burhan. We're here to show our game, Descent. It's about dungeon crawling, but you also have a romance system where if you die, your children continues your game. Done. Done. I've done it in less than 30 words. People get my game, and they're ready to ask me questions. It's a good opener. It's short. But if I want to make a great opener, it has to be interesting. Now, interesting is a nebulous term. Anything can be interesting. What I want to emphasize, if you think of something interesting, is that something that would be above average or out of the normal. All right? So something like, if everybody already knows what a dungeon crawler is, so don't just mention it's a dungeon crawler. Or everybody knows, oh, hey, I'm an animator who does 3D animation. So what? So what? Oh, actually, I've worked on projects such as a DreamWorks project where I animated flaming skulls. Then people are like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Add a bit of flavor to your opener. You know, it's good enough that it's short, but if you want people to be really paying attention, it has to be great and it has to be interesting. But that's not the best. The best openers are contextual. So context is the most important. Your best weapon is your surroundings and the clues around you. So when you go to an event, like I remember when I was at Level Up KL recently, I saw this one young lady going from booth to booth trying out the game, but she would never stop. She would look at the booth, and I could see that she was kind of a timid person. Like, I don't want to talk to people. I'm a bit afraid of approaching developers. But she was holding a plushie of Sans Undertale. The whole time she was walking around, she was holding this plushie of a game that she really liked, this character. So the moment she came to our booth, first thing I did, oh my God, is that Sans Undertale? And she lit up like a Christmas tree. I'm like, yes, it is Sans Undertale. I love him so much. I'm like, oh, yeah. I love Undertale. I'm a big fan. To be honest, I didn't like Undertale that much. But hey, that doesn't matter in that context, right? But I enjoyed Undertale, that was a lie. And then I told her, wow, like I'm a big fan of Undertale, and this is my game, we're showing off. So it didn't matter that my game wasn't like Undertale at all. It mattered to her that, hey, this guy reached out to me and saw me as a person who liked a certain thing. And then that created a connection. So context allows you to create a connection. That's the difference between context and the other things. Context allows you connection. So you see someone, you look at their shirt like, oh my God, he's wearing a VTuber shirt. Maybe he doesn't shower, but I'm going to say hi. Right? Okay, I mean, I'm wearing an Oshinoko shirt, so I showered today. Okay, I'm destroying the perception. Okay, so use that as context, because I still remember when we did Level Up KL again, Yagu from Hololive was there. So there was a lot of Hololive fans because Kobo Cabaneru and one more of the Hololive talents was there as well. So there was cosplayers and at Hololive fans, like with their t-shirts, like every time they stopped, what I did was that I would make a mistake in identifying their Oshis. So like somebody would be wearing a VTuber A, and I would say, is that VTuber B? And they'd be like, no, this is VTuber A, it's my Oshi. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I get it wrong all the time. Instantly they know, oh, this guy knows VTuber. He might get it wrong, but he knows them. And then they would stop and try and talk to me, and I would be like, slowly, do you want to try my game by any chance? You know? So context is very important. And it could be anything. You can talk about, if you go somewhere, there's food, talk about the food with someone. You know, context ensures that you're here in the present with them. Like, I'm not just here to talk about my game, talk about my portfolio. I'm also here like, hey, the aircon's kind of loud today, huh? It's like, then people are like, yeah, okay. We're present. We're in the situation. All right. So you don't have to start from zero when it comes to crafting openers. Use the resources you have. If you're a game developer, your game description is your resource. And I know some people feel insecure, like, Burhan, I've said it 100 times. What if people get bored? My friend, we're Malaysians and you attend Level Up KL. You say it 100 times. Nobody else outside of Malaysia knows about you, man. Just keep using it. Because this is the thing that I learned when I was doing sales. People are like, Burhan, you use the same sales pitch every time. I don't get it. How do you get it? When I was at IKEA Penang, we had a regular footfall of 7,000 people a day. You think people remember me? I could repeat that shit for years and no one would remember. But it worked. Because if it's good and you know how to do it, you can just repeat it as many times as you want. If any of your friends are insurance people who sell insurance, ask them how many times they use the same openers. They don't switch it up that much, but they use context. Instead of like, oh my God, I'm sorry, did you just get into an accident? This time it's like, oh, you might get into an accident soon. It's like, but the opener is the same. The opener is always the same. So use your resources. So if you're a game developer, get your short description from Steam or your bio page. Use it again and again. Inspirations. People love hearing where you get your ideas. Games are art. So talk about them. Where did I get the idea? Right? Tell them like, oh, I got this idea from Ultra Kill. You know, I was playing Ultra Kill and I love moving really fast. Like, okay, instantly anyone who loves Ultra Kill, like, I'm in. Okay, I'm locked in. Culture. Culture relates to stuff like things you can see, let's say, clothing. Like you see someone, oh my, you're dressing like Misa from Death Note. Clearly you're a hot woman or mentally ill. Both things are the same. So it's like use culture to your advantage. Like you see someone, oh my God, are you into manga as well? Like, oh, I just read the ending of Oshinoko. I hated it. Stuff like that, right? So use culture as a touch point. You know, anything, anime, manga, movie, any form of media, use it as a way to connect with people, which is also why if you're a game developer or if you're in the medium right now, expand your horizons. Always try to explore something new because you want to be able to connect with people. You might not put your ideas in your game or your portfolio or your art, but you want to be able to connect with people. Recent events. Oh my God, Trump won? Did you guys hear that? They're putting Elon Musk in the government. It's like sometimes topics like this you might not like, but it's like being able to have a touch point. Just one touch point is like, oh yeah, it starts a conversation, all right? So use all the resources that you have, see where you can go from there. All right, tip number 2, receive and return. So a common problem we have as introverts, especially in this industry, you either talk too much or you don't talk enough. Somebody starts saying, oh my God, did you see the new Transformers one? It's so gay. And then somebody will be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. They can't stop talking about the gay robots. I don't blame them. They are very gay and very cool. But it's a problem for us introverts because we often find that if I'm passionate about something, I cannot stop talking about it. And if they're talking about stuff I'm not interested in, I just zone out. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. What is this about? Finance? Money? What? It's like receive and return. So here's an important rule to take into account. Charlie Kaufman, he's the person behind movies such as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, if you know that movie. So he's the guy behind it. Constantly talking isn't necessarily communicating. So always remember, in a conversation, it's a give and take. You're always trying to listen to someone and then give something back as well. So whenever you feel like, okay, what makes a conversation good? How do I know if I've become a good conversationalist? Everyone is talking, not just you. If it's a group of three people should be talking. But of course, that's just one common rule. It can be different. All right. So a key to make yourself become, more adept in social situations is that keep everyone involved because the spotlight burns. If you find yourself in a group situation, networking, indie events or whatever, and like there's a group of 4, and it's always you yapping, blah, 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 blah. Push the spotlight to someone else. Because eventually you talk too much, people are like, oh, it's always this guy. Oh, brother, stop. Yeah. It always ends up like that. So a good rule to use. Now, again, don't be afraid of using the same thing again and again. Just now you mentioned blah, blah, blah. What do you think about blah, blah, blah? I use this all the time. I use it all the time to the point that my wife knows me very well. She's like, he's doing it again. He's being a smart guy in the conversation, making everyone feel involved. Like, yeah, it works. People like it when I do that, okay? So when you're in a group conversation or even if a one-on-one conversation, try to play ball with people, right? So also, when you use the first line, just now you mentioned, it means that you paid attention. You were listening. So just now you mentioned something about gay robots. What was that about? So what do you think about straight robots? I don't know, a topic, So engage with people in that way. So there are certain frequently asked questions when it comes to receive and return. Solution to awkward silence. So I'm going to tell you the truth. Sometimes you don't have to be afraid of it. There are times, because we are all, most of us are introverts, especially in this industry. There's going to be a lot of times where you go for a networking session and everyone's like sitting around a cocktail table, there's music playing and everyone's like, that's it, nothing happens. But it doesn't have to be uncomfortable, because if you have the ability to zone out, you bring out your phone, everyone's having a good time, it's all right, that's fine. Awkward silence is a bad thing when you're eating and then everyone's chit-chatting. And then no one's looking at their phone, and suddenly the conversation just dies. Like everyone's just like playing with their food, nobody wants to take out their phone, so that's bad. But if you're a beginner when it comes to these things, if you're just starting out your journey to become a good communicator, you don't have to be the person that breaks the silence. It's okay. Some smart ass like me will come in and like, oh guys, hear about the gay robots? I've used this 3 times and you keep laughing. I told you, it doesn't go old, So don't worry, leave it to someone who's more adept. But when you want to take that step, don't be afraid. It's like you see an awkward silence, you want to initiate something, just go ahead. Like, oh, do you guys play the new horror game by a la Mode? Like, do you guys try that? Have you guys heard of Lorelei and the Laser Eyes? Like, start a topic. And again, remember one of my rules, use context. Use context. If you know everyone on the table is like a weeb, right? Oh my God, did you guys see the new Look Back by Tatsuki Fujimoto? Huh? Have you guys seen that one? Use context. What if I talk too much? Again, a problem that a lot of us face. Easy rule. When you start feeling you're going out of breath, or the words start getting jumbled up. I know people would know this. Like you start talking, you're so happy, blah, 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 and then like your consonants are wrong, your vowels are wrong. That's when you know you're talking too much. Or you realize that the spotlight is burning. So I use the term. You'll feel that everyone's looking at you, or some people have started zoning out. Like you had like 4 people listening, and then like 2 people are like, gay robots again. Yeah, so that's when you know. So easy rule, at a certain point, if you start realizing, just end it. Just say, sorry, I was going on too much about that. And then, oh shit, it's a spoiler. Sorry about that. Now everyone knows I play Persona. Okay, last but not least, a problem that a lot of people have, even outside of introverted people. What if I can't do eye contact? Because as I mentioned just now, listening is an important component, because you want to ask people like, oh, just now you mentioned that blah, blah, blah. So that requires listening. But how do I do active listening, Burhan? Because boomers told me if you don't look people in the eye, it means you're doing some shady shit or something. So boomers love that kind of thing, because when I first started communications training, when I went to some courses, they were like, oh, look people in the eye so that they know you're listening to them. I'm like, what? This doesn't matter. So for introverted people, if you have problem, even if you're not introverted, if you don't want people looking into the windows of your soul, tip number 1, and this is the most stereotypical one, but it works sometimes, reach between the eyes. Now, right here. When you're an American trying to shoot a deer, right between the eyes. Or the nose. But this one's a bit obvious. Some people can be like, oh, she's looking at my nose. So, third best thing, and this one is my favorite, you don't have to look. Look somewhere. There's a lot of times where I'm talking to someone, I just do this. I'm looking somewhere, but I'm nodding. I'm like, oh, the robots were that gay? Oh. Because active listening isn't about eye contact. It's about being very focused. So focus doesn't mean you have to look at someone. You can stand still as long as you're not bringing out your phone. Then somebody knows, okay, they're not paying attention. But if you're standing still, you're nodding, you're like, oh, yeah, okay. I see. That's active listening. People know you listen. And then you confirmed it later with, just now you mentioned that. So then that confirms to the other person, oh yeah, they were listening to me. So always remember, eye contact is not a prerequisite. Okay, we're at the end of the 30-minute talk. Let's recap. Remember the rules. Number 1, fumbling is part of becoming better. Emphasis on the word becoming. Too many people focus on being. I want to be him. I want to be the guy who talks and everyone listens. It's all right. It will happen one day. Don't focus on that person. Focus on becoming. Becoming is the key word. You're always on that journey. Like I've been doing this for 8 years. I'm still trying to become someone. I'm not him yet. Practice, apply, practice again. Whatever you learn today, whatever you learn from other people that are good communicators that you like their styles and tricks from, practice. Put it into practice. And practice is not just like apply it on the floor like this. At home, talk to the mirror, talk to your cats, talk to your wife, husband, frog, gay robot. Talk. Because I practice this talk every single day, 5 days before here. I practice it in front of my cats. I practice it in front of my wife. I practice it even with a colleague. I was like, oh, I'm giving a talk. So every single day, I was simulating this talk at home. It's like, okay, good morning, everyone, blah, blah, blah. I practice like, should I walk around? Should I stand still? Is it a GDC talk? Is it a fun talk? So that's how I know when the day comes, I'm like, okay, when I was practicing at home, I'm thinking, okay, don't say that. Okay, this one I take too much time explaining. So like the slides you're seeing here is like the 4th, 5th revision already because I realized while I was practicing, okay, this doesn't go well with my slide or this one doesn't illustrate my points very well. So practice. Before any event, you're about to go to Indie Jam, you know for a fact, I'm going to talk about my game, all right? Okay, how do I talk about my game? In 20 words or less, practice, do it again. And then, same thing, if you're going for a networking event, you want to talk about your portfolio. Okay, how do I introduce myself? Do it in front of the mirror. Just do it 20, 30 times. Fluency, yes, it can be an issue, but we're Malaysians. Speak the English that you speak as long as people can understand. So ask your friend. Ask somebody, like, if I speak like this, you can understand or not? They say, yeah, I can understand you. Good enough. Don't be too caught up in fluency. You can learn English later. It's fine. Like, most of the people I work in game development cannot speak fluent English. They're like, okay, and that's fine, because you're not there to prove that you're a good English speaker. You're there to communicate your ideas. Last but not least, use context to your advantage. Always remember, look at people's clothing, the accessories they wear, the situation of the event, what happened recently. So context clues, use this to your advantage. Like, oh my God, is that person wearing a Metal Gear Solid t-shirt? Loser. Yeah, so use context clues, but use it to your advantage. Like, oh my God, I'm also a big fan of Hideo Kojima. I can't wait for Death Stranding 2 where I become a Grab rider again. No, use context clues because people feel connected when you have context because you pay attention to the clues outside of you. So people are like, he's talking about his games again. Like, talk about their game. Talk about their favorite anime. Talk about their t-shirt. Talk about something they mentioned. And then these are the tips that I mentioned just now. So prepare openers that are short and interesting and use context clues to your advantage. So practice, prepare them at home. You can write them down, practice 100,000 times at home, and then apply them here. Speak your part and then prompt others. Just now you mentioned that, what about? Yeah, speak what you want to say because you still have to speak. Doesn't mean you just listen to people, speak, and then find a point where you stop and say, okay, all right, I'm about to ask people questions because that shows you care. You want to learn from people. Last but not least, listen, respond, and ask questions because one of the most important components of listening is asking questions. They mention something, if you bring it back up to someone, they'll be like, oh yeah, they listen because you ask. And I've been in so many conversations where I didn't say much. And I can tell you this because I practiced it. I learned it from Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. What a cliche book. But man, some of the tips actually work. I hate to admit that. Because there is one thing where it says that if you just shut up and listen, somebody will walk away thinking you're a good conversationalist. And I've done that so many times where I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. That gay, huh? Oh. And the next day, I'm like, oh, Burhan, it's so nice to meet you again. Like, I love our conversation. I'm like, what conversation? You talk the most. But that happens. It's because when you listen, because people love being listened. So listen and ask questions. Ask questions. You're in a networking event, like they mentioned they're a publisher. I'm like, I saw that in your website you published it. How was that journey? Like, oh, people love questions. And thank you. That's it. Thank you very much. If you would like to, I understand because of time constraints, you might not get to answer a lot of questions. If you would like to contact me, oh my God, Miles Edgeworth. You can contact me via these links. Don't do this one though. This sucks. It's a loser place. But do those two. I know the middle one is owned by like a evil megalomaniac, but it's okay. I'm still there. But yeah, that's my ad if you don't want to scan, because I realized that putting 3 at once makes the phones go stupid, because like, oh my God, which one do I scan first? So take a picture, maybe scan when you go home. And yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you guys. Quick one. Are you sure it's still called Twitter?
I refuse to call it something that resembles a pornography site.
Okay, so something I want to point out, really nice Oshinoko shirt. So just now you mentioned about gay robot. Okay, I think we have a quick session for, I don't know, 1-2 questions. Does anyone want to ask him anything real quick? Anyone?
Anything specific to your situation?
It doesn't have to be about the gay robots, by the way. It can be anything else.
We can talk about the gay robots later. Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay, come.
Do you have any tips for someone, like if you're in a situation where like there's a conversation going on and you're too scared to like break in and like join in? Like what do you have to, what advice do you have for like that kind of scenario? Okay, so the situation is there's a conversation happening in front of you and you're listening, right? There's passionate conversation going on, but you can't penetrate. We've all been in that situation. First things first, listen for what's going on first. Find the key point that you can interject from your own experience, because you have to bring something new to the table. Like there's a circle of 5, 4 people are talking, I'm outside and I'm listening in. Okay, they're talking about the latest chapter of Chainsaw Man. Okay, I haven't read Chainsaw Man in a year, but I'm like, oh my God, guys, Pochita, am I right? So I mean, it's not a good opener, but you get in, because you don't have to immediately come in and contribute a whole sentence. You come in, show your presence, like, okay, I'm part of the topic. I understand what the topic is. I want to listen in. And then as they talk, they start acknowledging you. So when you're finally in that circle, people are like, okay, he's part of it. Then they will ask you questions as well. So find the points that they're talking about. Use anything you can get from your own experience to interject. Even if it's like everyone talking, oh my God, do you guys play the new Cuphead DLC? I haven't played it, but I can just come in and like, oh my God, I can never play Cuphead. And just by saying that, they're like, okay, Burhan's in the conversation now because he's a loser who can't play Cuphead, but we'll include him. So try to penetrate with an experience of your own, but it doesn't have to be long. Like, give a blurb, that's fine as well. Yeah. So I would advise.
Okay, anyone want to do one more? Oh, okay. The man wearing a cap. Nice cap, by the way.
Hi, I want to ask, how do you end a conversation when, like, let's say we're talking with someone and you get what you want from them already, but the conversation is so long and you don't want to, like, make them feel awkward when it's be like this, like talking like, oh, I'm happy or what I'm talking. It's like, oh, sorry, I need to go. Like, it will break the mood, right? But how do you end it with a good way so they don't feel awkward or anything?
Okay, thank you for the question. It is very common where if you get into events where we know people or we know the topics that we're talking about, we get into a long conversation, it gets tiring, but you don't know when to stop it. For me, it sounds bad to say this, but it's always better to give or make up an excuse. You don't want to end a conversation by saying, okay, I gotta go now, bye. It's like, because the other person will think, oh, they don't want to talk to me anymore. Even if they don't think of it negatively, they will think, okay, he doesn't want to talk anymore. So make up a reason, like, I'm at an event, I've got a booth of my own, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I need to like check on the laptop, blah, blah, blah. Say something. Make up a story and then be consistent in the sense that don't make it too binding, like, okay, I'm gonna go to the toilet on the 2nd floor, okay? It's like, the moment they see you use the toilet on the 3rd floor, it's like, oh, this guy, this asshole. So keep it general, but an excuse that's like acceptable. Like, again, context is your key. You're at an event, you're like, oh, sorry, I gotta go. I'm gonna check out some other booths. Like, some of these booths are super cool. There's an art one I wanna check out. So people will be like, yeah, understandable. You wanna go check out other booths. Yeah. So I would say use the context of the situation. Yeah, and then make an excuse that is acceptable to people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can we give a quick round
Thank
of
you very much,
applause
guys.
here to Burhan? Burhan, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Do I just-
Yeah, you can just leave it there. All good, all good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.